Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are in Hungary at Balaton Park circuit for the season finale of the Swift Cup Europe. It is, of course, mixed championships, not just Swift Cup, but also Eastern European TCR. We're also going to be watching the Bohemian Clio Cup racing. And it's the final round of the 2025 campaign here at Balaton Park. You've just seen it's a brand new track, opened 2 years ago, and since then it has seen many different races. For example, this year even the very famous MotoGP, but we are here for the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe, and the cars are already getting ready on their reconnaissance lap, finding their way back to the starting grid so that we can start one of the final trio of races. It is the final weekend of the season, and this is the starting grid. Adam Mesaros on pole position, and alongside him the championship leader István Bernula. István Bernula therefore on the front row of the grid. We've got Eszter Nemet and Balázs Hartmann on row number 2. Then it is Bastian Frischmann together with Benjamin Nagy in P6, Egon Burkus P7, Balázs György in P8, and Zsombor Pinter, the driver that scored a victory the last time out in Brno, in P9. And then we've got the other class of the Swift Cup 1.6. It is Daniel Nemes on pole position, alongside him Zoltán Csuti, behind them András Bilko and Armin Törő, and the last 3 positions Dobroslav Karník, Ferenc Hartmann and Richard Král. As usual, we have got 2 classes. It is the 1.4 turbo and 1.6 naturally aspirated models. Both of them, they are basically 2 different generations of the same model of the Suzuki Swift, the 1.6 being naturally aspirated and actually also 10 kilograms heavier. It is the 1.4 turbo that weighs 920 kilograms and develops as much as, or as many as 170 brake horsepower. It is one of the, let's say, most available cost-wise type of racing that you can have on any race weekend, which is what makes the Suzuki Swift Cup also that much popular. And we've got last 3 races of the season ahead of us. And my name's Pavel Fabry. I'll be your commentator for the weekend. So we've got race number 1 today, and then we're going to start tomorrow's program with yet more Suzuki Swift Cup racing at 8:30, and Swifts are also going to top off our broadcasting program tomorrow. So cars currently getting ready for their formation lap here at Balaton Park. It is a rather short track here in Hungary, very near Balaton Lake. It is 4,114 meters long, and it provides a good combination of straights, hard braking zones and corners, which is a perfect setting for a cup racing just like Suzuki Swift Cup. I believe that we are about ready to set off for the formation lap, with István Bernula, the championship leader, on the front row of the grid. Suzuki Swift Cup is completing their season here in Hungary with round number 6. We did race in Austria in Red Bull at the Red Bull Ring mid-May this year, where the season kicked off. Then we went racing to Poznań, to Poland, at the end of June, and the championship waited another month for a race weekend in the Czech Republic at Most. Slovakia Ring was the next round, another month after that, and then at the beginning of September we raced in the Czech Republic again in Brno, and this is the first Hungarian round of the championship and also the final round of the season. No rounds in, at the Hungaroring racetrack this year. And if we look in the championship standings, it is István Bernula with 206 points to his name, ahead of Eszter Nemet, who's in P2 with 177 points. That means 29 points between them currently. And Major Benedek in P3 with 139 points, already very well without a chance of clinching the title. So it is basically between the two drivers. And we have got Ester Nemet in third place, so that means that the main championship protagonists close to one another in second and third. However, they were beaten by Adam Mesaros in the qualifying earlier on. Adam Mesaros is going to be the one standing on pole position, but we have got a trio of races and a couple of grid rotations in the latter parts of the weekend, always reversing top 8s from the previous races, so a lot of action awaiting us here in Hungary. Bastian Frischmann in fourth in the championship standings from Boris Lisiecki, not racing with us this weekend. Regarding the 1.6 standings, we've got Zoltán Chuty leading the way with 231 points. Zoltán Chuty, of course, today on yet another front row in the 1.6 class. It is not pole because he was beaten by Daniel Nemes for the 1.6 class qualifying victory. Zoltán Chuty leading the championship from Benjamin Nať and András Bilko. Daniel Nemes, our pole sitter, in P4 in the championship. Suzuki Swift Cup, one of the most popular cup racing series in this neck of the woods, and the famous names taking titles in the past create already quite a long list, somewhere since 2013, and definitely drivers to mention like Norbert Michaelis, Norbert Kish, or for example Daniel Nať, your current Formula 1 commentator in Hungary. Cars are now back on the starting grid, so we are about to go racing for the first time this weekend, and it is the final round of the entire championship. Cars on the grid, the green flag is in the air, and that means that we're now waiting for the lights go red, and as soon as they go off, we are racing here in Hungary, and off we go. With Adam Mesaros starting from pole but losing first immediately. It is the championship protagonists immediately stealing the show in the first corner. István Bernula taking the lead from Ester Nemet. Also Balázs Hartmann in the mix. So it is actually Balázs Hartmann, I believe, currently up to P2 with the predominantly yellow Suzuki Swift. But it should be the championship leader in the first place, car number 506, already in trouble right in the beginning. That is Armin Törre, one of the local drivers, one of the many local drivers on the grid, predominantly Hungarian field in the Suzuki Swift Cup as usual. But it should be István Bernula leading from, I believe it should be Balázs Hartmann starting from fourth. There we've got a couple of issues through the field, and we are approaching the back end of the racetrack. Chicane with hard braking. Bernula having to defend from Hartmann. And then it should be the pole sitter Adam Mesaros in third, and Ester Nemet probably also in the mix. We've got the colourful car driven by Bastian Frischmann up in fourth right now. Yeah, Adam Mesaros, the pole sitter, down in third. And we're about to finish the first lap of the race. Little late on the brakes goes István Bernula, which opens the space down the inside, and it should be now Balázs Hartmann coming through. Car number 505. Balázs Hartmann leading the race from Bernula and Mesáros. Terrible start by Ester Nemet, actually. Going from 3rd all the way down to 7th, which definitely does not help the championship aspirations. And there we go, around the first sector once again, with Hartmann leading from Bernula, Mesáros in 3rd, Frischmann up to 4th, Zsombor Pinter from all the way back in the last place in the 1.4 class up to 5th. Then it is Benjamin Nagy in P6. Ester Nemet down in 7th. Not the best of first laps, opening laps for the Hungarian driver. So reaching the back end of the track yet again. It looks like Frischmann lost a couple of places, and we should have the Austrian down in 6th. Yes, behind the two predominantly black Swifts. And there is Ester Nemet in the mostly blue car with yellow highlights. She's got to work her way through back through the field after not a very good opening lap of the race, but she's definitely going for it. There we go, 20.5 minutes left on the clock as we've just completed the first 2 laps of the race. 25 minutes as usual. You may have noticed also the other route around this quick right-hander also added to the track because of the motorcycle racing. Back to the hairpin with Hartmann still leading. Balázs Hartmann, one of the very well-known names in the championship. However, well, Balázs Hartmann has already spent his fair share of time in the series. Never taking the title though. It was Moritz Čermej last year scoring the overall victory. In 23 it was Christoph Zellhofer, the year before that Fabian Orfandl, and the 2 years before that, 2021 and 2020, that was Gábor Timm. And basically we go all the way down, all the way back to 2006 for the championship start. First of all, it was just a Hungarian Cup, which then went international in 2014. But I've already mentioned names like Norbert Michelis, Norbert Kiš, also Ferenc Fica, Gábor Timm, and Daniel Nagy, taking overall victories in the past. Gábor Timm with 3 titles to his name, being the, let's say, most successful driver in the history of this cup. We do have a couple of drivers already getting into trouble. We had Armin Törö driving very, very slowly right at the beginning, which dropped him all the way down, and he seems to have retired. We also had a car number 565 with issues. That was Ferenc Hartmann, taking a very, very, very slow drive across the line with one of the two Czech drivers behind him, Richard Král, all the way back in 15th overall. But back up to lead, it is Balázs Hartmann. A couple of cars kicking dust. Just as we are now driving back from where the track meets the motorway from Balaton to the country's capital of Budapest. Beautiful fight for third. It is Mészáros on the outside and Zsombor Pinter coming through. Zsombor Pinter, car number 587, the black car, coming through into third. What a move that was. And Pinter, who started last in his class, is now in the podium scoring positions. The pole sitter Adam Mészáros trying to do something about it. He had to take the outside line through the first corner, still trying to trouble the car ahead, but not quite coming through. Pinter therefore holding off. And if we go back to the championship standings, Zsombor Pinter actually not in the international standings, but leading the Hungarian championship. With enough of a gap to his name that it already secures him the Hungarian title in 2025. Because he's got 260 points. The next car, István Bernula, 173. And that's as near as makes no difference, nearly 100 points before the final round of the season. Hartmann, however, increasing his lead to over 1 second from Bernula, the championship leader. But then it is Zsombor Pinter using a tow, or actually giving a tow, to Adam Mészáros, who's trying to slipstream past his countryman. And they are now gradually getting back in touch with the championship leader. They've caught up with him already, just as we are slowly approaching the halfway mark of the race. Just under 15 minutes left, and Balázs Hartmann dominating the race since the start. Hard defensive racing from István Bernula, but he is now leaving the door open into the second corner. That was a mistake, and Zsombor Pinter does not need to be invited twice. He stole that second immediately off the hands of Bernula. Bit of an off-road moment for the pole sitter Adam Mészáros, who ran out of tarmac and talent in that corner and drops down to 5th behind, and that should be Nagy coming up to 4th. Yeah, Benjamin Nagy. Eszter Nemeth, she dropped down to 7th, or let's say back to 7th, where she was after the start, still fighting with the other very much colourful car of Bastian Frischmann. Bastian Frischmann got as high as 4th on the opening lap of the race, but since then dropped a couple of places and is now defending. There is one of the 1.6 cars moving aside for the front runners. Should be one of the troubled cars, maybe even Balázs György in the last place. right past the local hotel, back onto the start and finish straight. Very nicely colored car, number 558 of Benjamin Nagy, who's already come up to third. Currently still fighting with Mesaros for the podium positions. Mesaros now coming through. Nagy trying his luck around the outside, but that's really the longer way around, which does not really bring him the result he needed or he wanted. That means that Nagy stays down in fourth, and he's got all the work to do again. As we've just ticked over to the second half of the race with 12 minutes left on the clock, Balázs Hartmann still leading currently by around 2.5 seconds from Pinter, who himself is already enjoying a bit of a gap over the rest of the opposition, led by Mesaros from Nagy. Nagy down in fourth. In that mostly black car, which actually looks like a blackboard, where you've taken liberty with the chalk. Bernula, the championship leader, skipping the chicane at the back end of the track, hoping nobody would notice, but we did. And down in sixth, there is Frischmann defending from Ester Nemet yet again. Nemet taking the inside line, which will become the outside line into the chicane in the final sector. Yeah, the track is just over 4 kilometers long, which means it isn't very long. Ooh, that's a big mistake from Mesaros, who simply goes straight ahead in the final chicane. Or let's say second to last. This is sort of an SS section, taking us back to the start and finish straight. And it is Bastian Frischmann entering the pit lane, which is definitely not a planned thing. No mandatory pit stops in any of the races that we're going to be watching this weekend. So that was definitely uncalled for. And Bastian Frischmann with some sort of trouble getting back to his mechanics. Potentially even retiring from the race and ending it prematurely. Back to the top, where we've got Balázs Hartmann keeping a lead of around 2.5 seconds, managing his tempo and simply looking into the rearview mirror, glancing there here and there just to check whether the gap is still enough so that he doesn't really need to care about anything and anybody else. Pinter got slightly closer by a couple of tenths on the previous lap, but nothing to worry about. Ester Nemet, she is the one holding the fastest lap of the race overall with 2 minutes 0.1. However, her previous lap was done in 2:02.9, nearly 3-second difference. And that must mean that there was some sort of trouble for Ester on the previous tour, while the race leaders still keep lapping the track at around 2 minutes and a half, shall we say. It is Adam Mesaros who's just set his fastest lap of the race, 2:00.1. However, he did skip a chicane on that lap, so it shouldn't really count. This is Ester Nemet in the blue car, trying to take fight with her championship opponent István Bernula. None of them currently even remotely fighting for the victory in this in today's race. However, they don't really have to care about that too much. They simply have to take points off each other. For István Bernula, he's looking to increase his gap in the championship even more, which would very nearly hand him the title already. Ester Nemet, she's got a, well, quite the opposite objective. Take some points off her countrymen and keep her championship chances alive. Using as much road as possible, also with the outside curb. No track limits to be worried about in Swift Cup racing. István Bernula not really choosing the smartest of lines through the middle sector, which is now giving Ester another possibility of piling on the pressure. And they seem to be running side by side into the chicane. The outside lane not really the favoured one. But there's the hairpin coming up, and then the fast section into the final couple of corners. A long straight with a very sweeping fast corner, the left-hander. Should I choose a favourite place on this track, it would probably be this, because this is a properly fast corner, ending up with a hard braking zone where you really have to get your car straight as quickly as possible. You also could notice the safety feature on the Suzuki Swift, which even comes from the serial production. If you brake too hard, the hazard lights come on, warning other people originally, let's say on the motorway, that you're braking that hard. And because, for example, because of course for the cup racing the car baseline comes from the serial production, the car is simply stripped down of anything and everything that you don't really need for car racing, with a roll cage put in. It's still a very much serial car with lots of bits removed and some bits modified and replaced to go and do motorsport. As I mentioned, the 1.4 turbo car producing 170 brake horsepower and 300 newton meters of torque in a car that weighs 920 kilos. By the way, if you want to try your hand in Suzuki Swift Cup racing, well, first of all, you need to be at least 12 years old. Between 12 and 16, you can start racing in the Hungarian Championship with a special permission. But then you can keep going, and it's a championship that is just going to cost you a couple of thousand of euros over the course of the entire season. Definitely, as I mentioned already, right in the beginning of the race, one of the most cost-affordable racing series that you'll find anywhere in the world. And you get a lot of free practice, and you get a lot of racing. 3 races per weekend. That's definitely not bad. 4.5 minutes left, with Ester Nemeth trying to have another go on her championship rival, István Bernula. But still not really being successful. There is also Egon Burkus close behind from from nobody. Egon Burkus is actually last in the class right now. Ooh, István Bernula having a bit of a wayward moment through the left-hander, handing himself on the silver plate to Ester Nemeth yet again, but then taking the inside line into this tight right-hander. Ester Nemeth still not coming through. So this is for the title. That's why we're also following this fight very closely. It's also the closest fight within the top 10 right now. But let's not forget that the race leader has seen his lead reduced in the past laps. So Hartmann still leading, but only by 1.2 seconds. Jean-Bor Pinter from last on the grid, getting very close to actually taking the victory off the hands of Balázs Hartmann. We've got 2.5 minutes left. That's good enough for 2 more laps. Pinter gluing his car to the inside to prevent Ester Nemet from having another go and inviting Egon Burkush into the play, into the game. Egon Burkush already tried to have a go, however did not manage to find his way through. Hartmann leading, but I guess not by much. And Jean-Bor Pinter getting closer probably with every corner. Where are the race leaders? That is also a very, very interesting fight. I am absolutely sure Balázs Hartmann in first. However, Pinter will be around 1 second behind. On the previous lap, Pinter was half a second quicker than the race leader. But this is for the title. This is the exciting one. This is the one that's raging on still. Ester Nemet, she's just trying same lines every lap. She's got to come up with something else. Jean-Bor Pinter trying to defend very hard. It is a very robust defensive. There is the race leader, Balázs Hartmann, from Pinter and Mesaros. I believe that that's not done yet, and we're about to enter the final lap of the race. Rather wide line on the exit. What is the gap going to be? Is it going to extend? Yeah, it has, slightly. That's because Pinter already has his rearview mirrors full of another car, and that is the pole sitter, Adam Mesaros. So as much as Pinter would love to be focusing up ahead, he can't be. In the meantime, Ester Nemet with the final lap in front of her and last 4 kilometers where she can do something about her 6th place and most importantly reduce the championship gap to István Bernula on the final weekend of the season. Just a couple of seconds left on the clock. The time will be up very soon. That comes now. And we're on the final lap of the race with Hartmann still leading from Pinter and Mesaros. The top 3 already way away from everyone else. Benjamin Nagy in P4 from, well, running a rather lonely race in 4th. From Bernula and Ester Nemet, who also have Egon Burkush together with them. And now into the final sector of the race, Balázs Hartmann. He took the race lead on the opening lap of the race, never gave it to anyone else, never even allowed anybody close enough to launch an attack. And even though he can see very well the 2 Swifts in his rearview mirrors, they are close, but they're not close enough. And nothing is therefore gonna happen anymore. Balázs Hartmann already making his way around the final corner of the race, and this is going to be his race. Balázs Hartmann scoring a victory here in Balaton Park on his home soil from Jean-Bor Pinter and Adam Mesaros. Benjamin Nagy finishing his lonely race in 4th, and there they are, the championship protagonists. Bernula still very close in 5th from Ester Nemet. It's not even a photo finish, but it was very close. I believe it's round about 0.2 of a second, but István Bernula, who was fighting for the race lead initially, dropped a couple of places, but crucially managed to finish ahead of Ester Nemet on the road, which is definitely very, very important for the championship fight. Egon Burkush finishing 7th on the road, and there we then have the 1.6 class race lead. Zoltán Chuty in 8th overall, but taking a victory on the road in the 1.6 class from Daniel Nemes. András Bilko in 3rd in the 1.6 class from Dobroslav Karník, Ferenc Hartmann, Richard Král. Hartmann and Král already a lap down, so they've already finished their races. Bastian Frischmann somehow ending up in the pit lane with issues that we saw like 10 minutes from the end. And then Balázs György also not seeing the checkered flag, with Armin Törö retiring rather early on. So that was one of the first of the trio of Suzuki Swift Cup Europe races here in Hungary for the final round at Balaton Park. This is the first of 3 today that we're going to be broadcasting to you. So we're continuing in just a couple of minutes with the Clio Cup Bohemia, and after that, to top off today's program, it's going to be Eastern European TCR. Both championships still about to crown their champions, so a lot to play for, a lot to be looking forward to, and that means that we're going to take a quick break before we come back to Balaton Park for 2 more races. So from Suzuki Swift Cup Europe race number 1, it is for now a very warm goodbye.